Hi there, I'm Dustin Warncke here with an exciting word about one of our favorite crossbow sponsors of all time, and that is Barnett Crossbows. These are awesome crossbows, and I talk about crossbows a lot. I hunt with crossbows a lot. They made it legal in Texas back in 2009 to hunt with crossbows during archery season, which is when I bought my first crossbow, and that's the Wildcat C5 from Barnett. I'll talk to you more about that in just a minute. What I just received from my friends at Barnett is this BCX Buck Commander Extreme carbon light crossbow. The limbs on this are so much shorter than just about any other crossbow I've run into out there. The newer ones are starting to come out like this with a little bit longer rail and bigger cams but shorter limbs, and that's great because you're able to transfer more energy that way to your bolt. And the technology to make this thing so light, I don't know what they did to it, but man, I could hold this thing all day. Some other things that are really awesome about this is the scope that comes with it. The scope, at first I was getting ready to put a red dot scope on here like I have on my C5 Wildcat, or even an EOTech holo sight or a holographic sight, just because I wanted to kind of try things different. Then I checked out this thing. This has both green and red colored illuminated reticles that give you an ability to be able to see yardage markers and be able to get your accuracy to the max. This is a 4-power fixed scope. I'm sorry, 3-power by 32 fixed power scope, and it's everything you need out of a crossbow scope. Some other innovations are the thumb hole stock that you have here for keeping your hand rested, and it's got a really nice butt pad as well, which is interchangeable, especially when you talk about the sizes of younger shooters shooting crossbows. And crossbows is a great way to introduce a kid to archery sports. And they make youth crossbows and those kind of different things. Barnett makes a line of recurve crossbows, youth crossbows, and compound crossbows, but I'm really a big fan of the compound crossbows because they make more compound crossbows than just about anything. So you have so many different factors here. Another thing is the safety factor of this crossbow. You have a little note at the bottom of the glass on the reticle of the actual scope that says, keep your fingers away from the rail. I've run into several horror stories, and I almost was a victim myself of having my fingers too far up here when you're in the middle of shooting. And I'll talk to you about safety in just a minute in that regard. But one thing that this system has is a little hand-through way to keep your fingers away from the actual rail of the crossbow during flight. So this is just a natural feel to grab the crossbow like this. It's a solid rest, be able to look through it and shoot. And this thing is just a dream to shoot. I have had so much fun shooting this thing. I've not taken on any hunts yet, but I'm going to soon, and I just cannot believe how awesome this thing has turned out to be. So the BCX Buck Commander Extreme from Barnett. So this is an awesome crossbow. Now, let's talk before we switch to the Wildcat C5, which is an older crossbow but still on the market today at the time I did this filming, about some fundamentals about shooting crossbow. It's very similar to shooting a rifle. That's usually the way I teach people to do it. Trigger control. Both of these are going to have nice smooth triggers, or the C5 Wildcat has a very light trigger that it really is just single stage. You just pull it and it goes. It scares people how light that thing is sometimes. But one thing that I think, actually two things that I think are absolutely crucial for your crossbow apparel is to always have a rope cocking device. And that's one thing that Barnett sends with these ready-to-hunt kits like the BCX here. It comes with a rope cocking device, comes with a quiver, and it comes ready to hunt with 3 crossbow bolts. And that's another thing that I'm a huge fan of is having the rope cocking device. The reason is because you're going to have a better set on every one of your pulls. A lot of times, you know, we're humans, we all make mistakes. When you pull up on your crossbow with the strings by hand, it's harder on your hands. You almost need to wear gloves to do it, but you don't get the same cocking point and the same knocking point every time when you're pulling it back by hand. You're going to go high on one limb or low on the other when you're pulling back on the string. That can affect your accuracy, and it has in cases I've talked about on Crossbow Tech Tips big time for me in the past. So ever since I've switched to a crossbow rope cocking device like this one, which I believe you can use on just about all the Barnett crossbows, I've not had any issues with major accuracy at all. I've been dead on within an inch or less at 20 yards, 30 yards, out to 50 yards and beyond. So I really believe in the rope cocking device big time. Another thing I believe in wholeheartedly is having a monopod or bipod or some kind of a pod. I hunt with one in all of the videos you'll watch me. I'm constantly hunting with this. This is just a Stony Point pod. They're not a sponsor of us. I just bought this at a sporting goods store, and it just has a little camo holder for it, and I basically just hold this with one hand. It steadies my crossbow, where all I have to worry about was what I'm doing back here with my trigger finger. And it gives a solid rest for however you're hunting. If you are hunting out of a rifle stand, you can always use that as a rest, the window of your rifle stand, or the bar that goes over you in a tree stand. If you're hunting in a rifle tree stand, that would work as well, but have a rest whenever you're crossbow hunting. I hunt out of pop-up blinds a lot, as you can see in a lot of my hunting videos, and this thing's easy to just maneuver. It's built for kneeling or sitting shooters. You can certainly do it with standing up with a longer monopod or bipod or any kind of pod or rest like that. I'm a big proponent of that. Yeah, I had some friends over the other day, and I was trying to sight in the crossbow. I remounted the scope on the C5 Wildcat, and I forgot the monopod, and I said, oh well, I don't really need it. I guess I could probably get away with it. Well, I ended up not having very good accurate hits, and finally one of my friends said, go get the monopod. So finally I went and got it, stuck it into the ground. I was dead bullseye every single shot after that. So again, don't waste time. Make every shot count and use a monopod or use some kind of rest, shooting rest, whenever you're shooting a crossbow. I'm a big proponent of that for sure. Back in a minute with the C5 Wildcat. So we are back today with the C5 Wildcat. This is the crossbow that I guess you could say I cut my teeth on when I got into crossbow hunting. I have killed dozens of deer and hogs and other game with this particular crossbow, and it still is one of my go-to crossbows. Now, we didn't talk about speed in the last segment. The BCX is a new, faster, cutting-edge, top-of-the-line crossbow on the market today. For the cost, the BCX is going to run you about $700 to $800. That's the beginner for a lot of other crossbows that don't even come with as many accessories that this one does and have fewer technological breakthroughs like the BCX does. That's the joy of Barnett. They constantly push the button on making things affordable, but making things more powerful and pushing the envelope on success in the hunting industry. And that's the beauty about the competition for the hunting industry is that everybody's trying to constantly compete with each other to bring the consumer the best product. And as I've mentioned before in my writings, as I've mentioned before on these videos, we are in the golden age, man. It doesn't get any better than this. And it continues to improve and continues to get better. And that's the one thing that the BCX is continuing to show is you're getting tighter limbs, a little bit longer rail, and faster arrows, 365 feet per second out of the BCX. Okay, the Barnett C5 Wildcat. This is an older crossbow that's been on the market for a while. It's rated at about 320 to 325 feet per second, and has a little bit lighter draw weight as far as that goes. The BCX has about, I believe, 185 pounds, if I'm remembering that right. This is about 150 pounds. Longer limbs, as you can see, and I'll put down my arrows here and show this on camera. So you have a little bit longer limb span than that, but you have a little bit of a shorter rail as well. So it's kind of a trade-off. And smaller cams as well, smaller cams to hold the power. I have killed a bunch of animals with this. The only thing that I have really done with it is put a set of limb savers on it. I put the regular scope that came with it, which is a BSA 3-dot red dot scope. It goes from power of 0, which is off, all the way up to 11, which is perfect for daytime shooting. It's not magnified like the crossbow scope is of 3 power, but this one certainly gets the job done for me. And has a replaceable battery, and those are definitely some good features for it for sure. The trigger on this thing is absolutely incredible. I am so excited to have Barnett on our team of sponsors because this continues to get better, and this is affordable. This crossbow runs between $300 and $400, and for getting youth started in crossbows, to getting youth started in archery, period, it's a great beginner crossbow. Or if you're just getting started and just wanting to see if crossbows are the right thing for you, this is a great entry level. And I hate to say entry level because I have killed numerous game with this, numerous animals. But you can certainly just try your luck and see what you think about crossbows. I'm sure you're going to fall in love with them, and especially Barnett crossbows as much as me. Now, that all being said, we've talked about utilizing a monopod. We've talked about using a rope cocking device. Let's talk real quick about the kind of arrows that I use. Barnett is awesome because they provide kits that are ready to go for a quiver on both of these bows. I got a quiver. This is the one for the C5 Wildcat. That's a little bit bigger. It holds 4 arrows. This is the one that I got for the BCX just recently. It holds 3 arrows, which is fine. Both of them mount underneath the crossbow, and they're great. The one thing that I'm a big fan of using, you can always use the Easton Barnett crossbow bolts. They're 20 inches long. These that I have here are 20-inch long, and they are LumenArrow bolts, and they're from our friends over at Lumenok, which is one of our other fine sponsors. For broadheads, I'm a little bit partial on this. Now, I'll go ahead and disclose that at first. Basically, Barnett has partnered with a broadhead company out there to make some specially designed crossbow broadheads. The one thing you want to watch, obviously, is your flight pattern whenever you're dealing with fixed blade or mechanical broadheads. And mechanical broadheads is usually what I like to hunt with, and you can certainly check out, there's a ton of crossbow rated broadheads on the market, and you want to try to go with crossbow rated broadheads so the blades do not open in flight. And crossbow rated simply means that they're rated to shoot 400 feet per second, over 350, just extremely fast feet per second, and not open during flight. The term really is only applicable for when you're talking about mechanical broadheads that run closed in flight and then open when they hit the target. So what I have here is a Grim Reaper crossbow head. This is for the new BCX crossbow that I have. And what is really cool about it is 1.5 inch cut radius with a trocar tip. You can get it in a razor cut or a razor point or razor tip. This is just a regular razor tip that has a little trocar tip to it. I really like this. This is a great broadhead. It is rated for crossbows at over 400 feet per second, like I've talked about, and is my pick for the BCX and the faster crossbows. For the other crossbow that I have, the C5 Wildcat, which I've hunted and killed tons of animals with, I utilize the Grim Reaper, again, 1.75 inch with a 1/2 inch expander cup, 1/4 inch expander cup. So basically it has 1.75 inch blades. When they open up, you get a little bit better cut radius to about 2 inches with 125 grain. And I'm running 125 grain on both. The user manual, an owner's manual for the C5 Wildcat recommends the 125 grain. The BCX recommends 100 grain, but I talked to the folks at Barnett and they said 100 or 125 grain is good. Heavier is never a bad idea when you're looking at broadheads, when you're looking at shooting them out of a crossbow. So if you have the option, 125 grain is certainly going to be my choice for, and that's what I've chosen here for Grim Reaper to send me these broadheads. And I'm pro staff for them, so I'm definitely, putting a plug in for Grim Reaper as well. So I'm excited about this. The cool thing, whatever crossbow I go to, I have reliable broadheads that aren't going to open in flight. I've never had a problem with the longer crossbow broadheads or the longer just regular broadheads, 125 grain, running out of the C5 Wildcat opening during flight. They're extremely accurate, but this crossbow also runs a little bit slower. So one thing to keep in mind whenever you're dealing with any kind of crossbows, especially when it comes to fast speed ones of 350 on up, you want to shoot crossbow rated broadheads in them, especially when you're talking about mechanicals. That all being the case, my choice is going to be the 1.75 inch with the expander cup for the C5 Wildcat, or the slower crossbows that shoot 320 and lower feet per second. And for the really super fast ones like the Ghost 410, the Ghost 400, and the other super fast Razor, all the new crossbows that are available from Barnett, is going to be the crossbow rated 1.5 inch cut radius from Grim Reaper with the Lumenok Bolt. The cool thing about these Lumenok Bolt and LumenArrow bolts is that they already have the Lumenok built into them, and especially for filming any kind of hunting, that's crucial for me to be able to have that red tracer of where that arrow went, and it helps you, the viewer, be able to see that as well. So that's why I like to hunt with these. So you can certainly choose whatever crossbow bolt you want to, including the ones that Barnett makes themselves with Easton, and they're all going to be fine. They've all flown fine for me before I switched to Lumenok. So certainly check out their packages. Again, the beautiful thing about Barnett crossbows is most of their hunting packages come ready to hunt, as they call it. And they come with a quiver, they come with field tips, they come with bolts, and they come with an optic of some kind to be able to just go out there and hunt. All you have to do is just supply broadheads and go out there and hunt. And when I got started with Barnett Crossbows back in 2009, with just hunting with them before I got into videoing or anything, that's what I did. That's exactly what I did. I got in there and I just simply slapped on a broadhead and just went hunting. They're that easy to put together. They're that out-of-the-box accurate. You don't have to do a whole lot of crazy tuning to get a crossbow to fly right, especially these crossbows. That reminds me, the BCX, when I took it out first, it only took me about 4 shots to dial that scope in and get that thing right on target. And that's another thing that's beautiful, is these are inherently accurate. They're, the innovation that's been into designing them is absolutely incredible, and it's cutting edge, especially for the price on the market today. Barnett is an unbeatable value. For this segment, I'm Dustin Warncke. Thank you so much for checking us out. You can find more information about Barnett Crossbows on their website or through our website at the end of this video. Thank you so much again for checking us out today.
He's on around. A little bit. How far is that? How far is that? 7, 5.
If you're gonna survive, thank you, Smith and Wesson. Lord, I'm still alive. Gonna save the game, one predator at a time. God, guns, and country, we're gonna hold that line. Oh,